Korea24 Movie Spotlight, your weekly ticket to the world of film, from the hottest blockbusters to the hidden indie gems and everything in between. And joining us today in the studio are our resident movie critics, Darcy Paquet. Hello, Darcy.
Hi, Alana.
And Jason Bechervaise. Welcome, Jason.
Hello, Alana.
Now, Jason, your pick this week is the South Korean neo-noir crime drama Project Y. In Korean, it's just Project Y. It's featuring local stars Han So-hee and Jun Jong-so. Jason, what can you tell us?
Yeah, this is a new movie by the actor-director Lee Hwan. So he acted in movies in his early part of his career, including the breakout indie hit Breathless, which was actually directed by another director-actor, Yang Ik-jun. But he's made, impression with cinephiles more recently with the features Paquet and Young Adult Matters. And these films focus on runaways. And this new movie too focuses on young people, it's pretty grim. So the world of crime, and it essentially follows these two young women, played by Han So-hee and Jun Jong-so, and they want to save up their money so they can open up this flower shop, and during the day they do work. The Han So-hee character works in this flower shop, and at night they're kind of doing other things. But their dreams are dashed when they're basically scammed, and so they're forced back into the criminal underworld, where they discover a stash of gold. So and as a result of that, they're obviously being pursued by some very shady characters. And so they try and get out of this, deadly spiral. And these two stars are familiar to anyone who watches Korean content. Han So-hee, she's been in a few dramas, including The World of the Married, and also Jun Jong-so, who was in, of course, Lee Chang-dong's Burning, and she's now been in a number of films, including the Netflix movie Cool. And the movie also stars Kim Shin-ok, Jung Young-ju, and Kim Song-chul, who plays the villain in the movie. And the movie had its premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, and then screened in Busan, and it's now on wide release here in Korea.
So it sounds, a lot like Korean content that travels abroad. You got violence, betrayal, revenge. Jason, is it much of the same, but kind of with female leads?
That's exactly what it is. So it's set, in Seoul, Gangnam, and it's just so grim, horrible. These just really undesirable individuals, men, shady characters, being exploiting these young women. So it is misogynistic. Now it is, as I was explaining to you before we recorded, it is kind of told from the perspective of these two female characters, which does help kind of. I mean, in terms of some of the misogyny, you're kind of like, okay, at least it's it's female led. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I just came out with a bad taste in my mouth, and it kind of, and clearly, the director's other films have flourishes of promise. Like, he's able to get these amazing performances out of his cast. And he knows how to make movies as well. The production values are quite high. I like his use of colours, and this film has kind of a retro feel about it as well. But sometimes it just feels like it's all a bit contrived, and he's just making it all very dramatic, and that's where I kind of became less interested, because it just relies too much on these kind of already very much established conventions. In Korean cinema, you've got, like you said, revenge or retribution, betrayals, you've got violence, and just a lot of horrible individuals. And so how is this any different? Sure, it's female led, but that's pretty much it. But the performances are good, very, very good, and I think there's some interesting chemistry between the two leads. But as a movie, I don't know what Darcy thinks of it, but I don't know. I just didn't come out thinking that it was particularly great. Actually, I preferred his two earlier independent films, actually, to be honest with you, despite their faults.
Speaking of those earlier films, how does this one compare to films like Paquet? Is there lots of swearing?
Lots of swearing.
Okay.
Well, Paquet is. I rewatched it the other day, and oh my word, it's because Breathless also, I think, holds the record for the amount of swear words in one movie. This is the title I mentioned earlier, which, it's the Yang Uk-jun's independent film that did really well on the festival circuit. And it kind of very much laid the groundwork from which many other independent films then followed, screening festivals, doing well in theatres in Korea. And that film was, deals with domestic abuse, and it's really, really, really grim. And there's lots of swearing. I don't think I've ever watched a movie where the character speaks in Banmao to literally everyone, to every character in throughout the entire film, regardless of whether young or old. It's total just a lot of swearing, and so Paquet similarly is it's very gritty, but dealing with runaways and lots of bad language. This film feels a little bit more. I mean, on the one hand, it's definitely going for the dramatic effect, but it's also, and I read that the director edited the film because it was originally given an R rating, and so they wanted to obviously bring in more viewers, and so I think they took out some of the language that would have taken it to an R rating, and so it does feel a bit more, I wouldn't say family friendly is not quite the right word, but it's
not the right word.
but it is there is less bad language, but yeah, it's still quite violent.
Mm-hmm. Darcy, have you seen it? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have similar feelings as Jason. For me, what stood out were the performances of the two leads, because, both of them are quite talented.
They are.
They bring a lot of energy to the film, and, they are kind of front and center for pretty much the whole film. And so, so it was impressive. The villains are very villainous, but...
Yeah. I mean, Kim Sung-chul is terrific, actually, as the main central villain in the movie. He's great.
Yeah. But in terms of, the character itself, the villains are simple in the sense that they're just completely black. They're just completely cruel and evil. And so, I think our focus does really switch. There is another character who appears in the middle, who's kind of like a mother figure to the two leads, played by Kim Shin-rok. And, she's an amazing actress. She has... and I think sometimes directors like to cast her and kind of see how much they can get out of her. And her character felt a little bit pumped up, or a little bit exaggerated.
There was a connection as well, I think, to Paquet, because Paquet, there's a mother figure in that film. They all call her mother. She's a teenage. She's 18 years old. She's not a mother, but she tries to act as a mother, even everyone's trying to. They're ridiculing her. But in this film, there seems to be some. When I saw that mother figure in the movie, that seemed to be the connection to Paquet.
Yeah. And so it was an interesting kind of diversion, I think, at that point. But yeah, I mean, I think that the film kept my attention the whole time. I didn't regret watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is something a little bit empty that you feel, I think, walking out of the theater after you've seen it.
How is it doing in theaters so far?
When it opened, was it in third place or something like that? It's not doing tremendously well. I can't remember exactly the number of audience goers, but I think it's under 100,000.
Okay. Well, from a gritty female-led crime story, we're going to shift gears now to a very different kind of intensity. Darcy, this week you're recommending a Spanish-French co-production that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival last year. This film is called Sirat. It's set in Morocco and it opened in Korean theatres on Wednesday. And it was announced yesterday that the film has earned 2 Oscar nominations for Best International Film and for Best Sound. So garnering some real international attention there. Before we dive into the Oscar nominations, let's start with, what kind of film is it?
Yeah, so I mean, the first screening was last May at the Cannes Film Festival, and I wasn't there, but I always follow the festival just in the sense of kind of seeing what my favorite critics are posting about it online, and after they see films. And I do really remember the response because after the first screening, people were coming out of it and just saying, "Oh my God, that was so intense." And so I was curious because, in particular, the way they were using the word intense seemed a bit different. Like we often use that word to describe films with really strong graphic violence, and this isn't that kind of film. We could use it to describe a thriller, but this isn't really a thriller either. And so it seemed from the way they were talking about that the film's intensity was something different, a different quality of it. And after watching it, I can confirm that that's true. The director's name is Oliver Lache. He's from Galicia, northwest Spain. This is his fourth feature film. His previous three features all screened at the Cannes Film Festival, although in the smaller sections. And this year it made it to the main competition where it won the jury awards. And yeah, I mean, during award season, it's been kind of much discussed. It did pick up those 2 Oscar nominations, and so a lot of people are kind of experiencing the film these days.
Right, so it sounds like the kind of film that has really stayed with critics after Cannes, and that impact is still being felt now, as again we can see with those nominations. Darcy, can you tell us a bit more about the story?
So it opens in the Moroccan desert, and we see, like, the first images of the film are these huge speakers being set up, and basically there's this kind of rave taking place in the middle of the desert. We see crowds of people dancing. Among them, there's a man and his son walking through the crowd who kind of stand out because they look more normal, I guess you'd say. But they're looking for the man's daughter, the son's older sister, who had disappeared 5 months earlier. They haven't been able to contact her. They talk to some people who say that there's another major rave that will take place in the south. And so they end up kind of joining them for the trip across the desert. And so I can give you that setup, and you can imagine how the film might develop, from that setup. And this is not that kind of film at all. It goes in a completely different direction, but that is at least the starting point.
I really can't get a sense of how this develops at all. I know we talked about it a little bit before. Yeah. Did it live up to your expectations? I know obviously you've been following it since Cannes, but when you saw it, how did you view it after? What did you think?
I mean, it did really hit me quite hard. So it lived up to my expectations. It's kind of a haunting movie in the sense that you watch it and you're really strongly affected by it. And the images from this film are just going to stay with you like forever, probably. They're very difficult to forget. As you're watching the film, I think different viewers will have different experiences because there are a few moments in the film that are a real gut punch. And, it doesn't really prepare you for it. You're sort of like, did this really happen? Like, I can't quite believe what I'm seeing. And then other moments where, it's just sudden kind of shocks that, again, are not the kind of shocks that we typically talk about when we talk about kind of genre cinema. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's incredibly well made. It was nominated for Best Sound, and that is something that really stands out. And so seeing it in a theater with a good sound system, I think, is a particular experience. Both the sound in terms of the ambient sound and then the music, which was composed by Kang Ding Rei, which is all this electronic music. The kind of music that would play at the rave, but it just kind of continues throughout the whole film. And then at the end of the film, it's quite challenging because you start to think, well, what is the point of this film? What is it saying? And, it's kind of, I won't go into it in too much detail because I don't want to talk about the ending, but it seems to be a film kind of about survival and not the sense of overcoming hardship and, that kind of survival. It's just like, survival all by itself with nothing else. Like, what does that mean? Like, how valuable is that? And so, yeah, quite hard hitting, quite unusual. It's a film that I'll remember a long time. I think I would watch it again because even though it is a difficult film to get through, I think that the imagery and the filmmaking is so strong.
Now, Jason, you came into the studio. We said, had you seen this film? You had the same reaction as those people in Cannes. You literally said, "Oh my God, that was so intense." Tell us more about your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. I'm glad I saw it because it's amazing, but I'm also traumatized because some of the scenes in the film are incredibly harrowing. As Darcy said, you just don't expect it, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks. And yeah, I mean, that's a cinema going experience. And so, yeah, I mean, intensity, it comes in different ways. You know, if you're thinking about Na Hong Jin and the way he edits his films, and you're completely engrossed. This is a completely different kind of intensity. And yeah, I mean, the father figure in the film, he's extraordinary, and you're attached to him. You follow him and you root for him because he's looking for his daughter, and he has this really endearing relationship with his son, and yeah, stuff happens along the way, and it's hard to talk about because I can't say any more, but it is an incredibly unforgettable experience. Like.
And it's interesting too, because I mean, there's stuff happening in the background to the story.
Yeah.
Like, over the news or something, you start, and then you see these columns of like military vehicles passing every so often. And they're, from the very beginning of the film, this is mentioned, and, you get the sense that the world is kind of falling apart as this story is taking place. And yet, the main focus isn't the rest of the world. The focus is very much on these characters. But it gives you the sense that, when everything is falling apart, like what do you have at the end of that?
I mean, overall, sounds like it was clearly a very impactful film for both of you.
It was, for sure.
Yeah.
And you have to see it in a movie theatre.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Great tip for listeners there. Lastly, before we wrap up, any other thoughts on the Oscar nominations? What film seems likely to come out maybe as overall winner? Jason, let's start with you.
Well, Sinners got 16 nominations,
Wow.
and they talked about the Warner Brothers acquisition by Netflix. Now, Warner Brothers has done really well. So One Battle After Another also landed. It was at 13 nominations. So the studio is, they were kind of writing it off, a year ago, and yeah, here we are, and it's secured 13 nominations in total, which is extraordinary. No Other Choice got snubbed. There were signs of that coming in. It wasn't in the BAFTA long list, other than the best international film. And now, because the Academy's diversified, that London and Europe is now a big focal point when it comes to voting. And so that will be seen as a disappointment by those here in Korea, and those in the industry. It's disappointing not to see that nominated. But, there are basically the standard of international films is really, really high. So, it's having to... Neon has got, was it 4 or 5? It's like, this is the distributor in America. And so they've had to kind of, they haven't been able to focus on one project. So that's not worked in No Other Choice's favour. Yeah,
I think it's been a really strong year for international cinema. And of course, international cinema is much of the world. And so we did see movies like Brazil's The Secret Agent and Norway's Sentimental Value getting a lot of nominations in the other categories as well. And so that is a new, like, the Oscars are kind of more tuned into international cinema than they used to be. And, I've seen Sentimental Value, and I really love that film. And
I want to see it. It's not going to be released here until February, I think.
Yeah.
And then The Secret Agent as well, I want to see. So, cool.
So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good films up for Oscars this year. There were years in the past when Oscars tended to nominate kind of middling, not very interesting.
Oh, it's completely different now. The Academy's diversified, and it shows in the nominations.
Am I correct in saying Oscars is in March?
Yeah, late.
Late March, okay.
No, not late. Not late March. Is it mid-March?
Yeah, early to mid, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
we'll have to
don't
hold
forget K-pop Demon Hunters. because
Yeah.
it's gonna
What I mean by late
How
is they're
could we ever
later
forget?
than normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll hold out until March then to see who picks up some awards. That wraps up this week's Movie Spotlight. Thank you to both our film critics for joining us. Darcy Paquet, thank you.
Yeah, great to be here.
And Jason Bechervaise. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.